Welcome to Theory Underground. So great to have you all here today. Um, what is this? Is this just me coming through right now, or are we good? Just want to check with everybody in the audience. Can you hear me? Looks like things are probably okay. You can probably hear me all right. Well, welcome to the stream. Also, people listening to this video in the future and on podcast. Great to have you all here today. So I'm going to just make a couple of announcements before turning this over to some original Slavoj Žižek interview content here at Theory Underground. Brand new interview just happened today. Very excited to share that with you all. I'm going to play it before the previously scheduled conversation with Michael Downs. Michael Downs of The Dangerous Maybe, who recently started his seminar at Theory Underground. He's done the first day of his seminar, but it's just beginning this project, the Mikey Downs seminar at Theory Underground. It's very exciting. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later, but right now the point is Mikey's course, which I'm going to go ahead and just show up here on the screen. Yeah. Introduction to Žižek, right? So it starts September 7th. And it just goes through the month of September. It's a pretty short one. The image has Žižek with a speech bubble. Coming out of the speech bubble there, it's got the words, "Take Mikey's course at TU or you are objectively the enemy, and we will send you to Gulag." Looks like there's actually a typo in that, but you know, it's underground. What do we expect? Wow, we've got 19 concurrent viewers over here. Great to see you all. Make sure to smash the like button. It really helps. Really helps. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is Theory Underground. It's a lecture course platform and publishing house, as well as ongoing research seminar hub. Okay. The YouTube channel and the podcast is just the media arms of Theory Underground. But more importantly, we tour, we publish books, and we have IRL course content, hybrid course content, all kinds of exciting stuff like that. But Slavoj Žižek, he loves us. He supports us. He wrote a wonderful foreword to my book, Time Energy, Why You Have No Time or Energy. He just wrote an amazing piece on Mikey's upcoming book. And it's because he vibes with the concept of time energy. Okay. So the conversation that we're about to get into, he touches on a response to Nick Land's most recent debate challenge from us and Žižek. It's like Land gives some kind of weird evasion, and Žižek kind of responds to it. He also says something about the Piers Morgan interview, about Gabriel Rockhill, talks about why he thinks what we are doing is important. Talks about Jordan Peterson in his second life as a guru. He talks about all kinds of really exciting stuff, including changes that he would make to his classic work, Sublime Object of Ideology. Talks about how Varoufakis goes too far. Talks about the importance of time, energy, and families. Talks about some very interesting stuff about careerist women in China choosing to slow down, drop out of their professions. Also gets a little into Alenka Zupancic's new work. And at the end of the day, everyone, he says, if you don't take Mikey's course, you are objectively siding with the enemy. It's really fun. And I'm going to play it in a sec here. And then afterwards, after it's finished premiering, basically, I'll be bringing Mikey on stream, and we'll have a conversation about why Mikey has selected the chapters that he has selected for the syllabus for Introduction to Žižek. Even if you're too busy, this will be of interest because on your own, as a researcher, at some point, maybe you'll want to read these chapters. And it's, for me, not someone who has read a ton of Žižek, very illuminating, right? It's when there's so much stuff to read, it's like, well, where do you even start, right? Well, we're going to get into that. But first, I just really want to emphasize the fact that Mikey is joining from work, okay? We recorded this earlier today, this interview with Slavoj. It was the only time that worked for Slavoj. He only had 30 minutes. He was in a hurry. He was exhausted. He just got back from traveling and everything like that. He just wanted to help make this plug for us. And Mikey is joining from his work. I can't really talk about it, of course, but it's just kind of amazing that he was able to do that at all. Someone there was able to pull some strings to make it so that he didn't have to do what he would have otherwise had to do that day, so that he was able to do this. So, thank you to the person on the inside who was able to help him out. It's kind of cool to see Mikey coming in from work. Usually he's coming in from his sort of man cave, with a library in the background. Here he's like in a sort of like conference room. But with that, we're going to get to it, and we'll see you all in 36 minutes, because that is the length of this brand new Žižek content. Let's go.
A little bit dizzy, ill in a bed, and I'm sorry if the PC will shake a little bit. That's my only chance. Okay, so let's quickly go through it. Tell me, what do you expect?
All right, so I'll save all the ceremonial stuff for later. I'll edit that in. For now, I'll just say, this is the worst part of my job is marketing. I hate it. It's not the thing I want to do with my life. And we have to somehow get the word out about Mikey's course. And what we discovered recently is that people who are interested in their intellectual development. They love seeing how the sausage gets made, so to speak. They love to see the syllabus come together, the rationale that goes into the syllabus. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted Mikey to kind of just share with you the main things, the main readings, and why he thinks that this is so essential to your work or whatever. And I don't know.
What is my role in it? Tell me exactly how am I supposed to intervene?
Yeah. Well, so basically what I want to do is I'm just going to tell you what I think. I'm going to tell everybody what the readings for the course will be, and then I'm going to ask you just a few questions about your theory of ideology, because this course is basically an intro to your theory of ideology. And let's see, a couple things on ideology I want to ask you, and then from talking about sublime object. And if that's all, I've got a couple other questions, but depending on
what I propose, so that, because again, as I warned you, I'm limited to half an hour.
Right.
Sure.
Why don't you simply skip that introductory part? You can add it later, where you explain what the course is about, and just ask me questions.
Okay.
So here's just one note I cannot resist in my bad taste. When you, Dave, said making sausages, what goes in? Well, I don't want to know, because what goes into making a sausage? Because, in British breakfast, those strange British English sausages that you get, it's better not to know what's in them. There is a law that says there should be at least 10% of meat and animal products in them. So better not to think what's the 90%.
Yeah.
I don't want to know how they make sausages, no? So I propose that we go directly to Q&A.
Okay.
You can use my image, blah, blah, or I got as if I'm there, but I want to use time economically. What I'm afraid is that you talk, present the kit, and then we have 10 minutes or what,
Okay, yeah, so here's what we'll do. Because I did want to tell you, we do have one little update on the Nick Land situation, that I just want to tell you what he said about your article, and then the idea of having a discussion with you. So that's something the viewers will want to see what you think of that, and then we'll go directly into the questions about your theory of ideology.
Okay.
Take it away.
Okay.
And we'll keep it short, Slavoj. We know you're tired. You've been traveling.
Because life is heat here. It's still a heat wave, and I hate life. Okay, let's begin.
Okay.
Take it away, Mikey.
Okay, hold on. Are we recording, Dave?
Yep.
Okay.
Started.
Okay. All right, Slavoj, thanks for being here. Yeah, today what we wanted to do is uh, talk to you a little bit about your theory of ideology, get the students who are going to be taking my course, basically give them a little introduction, some of the topics that we're going to cover in the course. And these are just some of the questions I've always wanted to ask you as well. And okay, but before we get into that, real quick, I want to tell you the little update on the Nick Land situation. So I just found out right around the time that you wrote your article, he got a new Twitter account. It's called Xenocosmography. And somebody asked him on it what he thought about your article. And he said, it's actually far lamer than I'd guessed. Now, I kind of expected this because you did a very short to the point engagement with accelerationism. And so I figured if he ever responded, he would just say, oh, well, you know, it wasn't detailed, or it wasn't that would be his comeback. But of course, the problem is you've engaged with him, you've shared your thoughts on accelerationism, and he's taken jabs at you over the years on Twitter. But when it comes to the idea of having an actual discussion with you, he's very timid in that regard. And so somebody just asked him about that and said, somebody named Chatbot Maru said, hey, Nick, did the guys from Theory Underground finally reach out for a debate with Žižek? I just remember that. And then get ready. This is Nick Land's response to the idea of having a debate or discussion with you with us. He says, debating someone unversed in diagonal Anglo-Elvish etymologies is futile, though. They don't even understand where the word God comes from. So okay, I guess none of us know the Elvish origin of the word God. So I guess there's no point in having it.
Okay, I expected something like that. But what I want to tell you is just two things. Do you know that a book of mine, a new one, short collection of mostly political essays, which will come out in around 2 months from Bloomsbury, the title is Against Progress. So it's the exact opposite. I try from a radically leftist standpoint to problematize the notion of progress, saying how we should be attentive to what is the secret price of progress. So I'm now very much in a conservative, of course, communist conservative mood. My new formula is that the forthcoming, if something like that will happen, revolution would have been, in the most radical sense of the term, a counter-revolution, in the sense that every revolution ended with tens of thousands, millions of death. So all those debt has to be redeemed, symbolically, of course. The second point I want to make, it may amuse you, is that now the big debate, I wonder how the guy will answer, is that on a Substack, I replied to a pretty brutal attack by some guy, Swami, and so on. I cannot pronounce the whole second part of the name. An Indian guy who, as I expected, that somebody will do, very brutally counterattacks my remarks apropos Oppenheimer, the way I mentioned Bhagavad Gita and so on. So I think there will come from that direction, the next big debate will come. You know, all these old stories. I'm too Eurocentric, I don't even understand Oriental spiritual depth, and so on and so on. I think my answer is not so bad, but let's wait and see. No?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, here's something just to give some more context to why I'm doing this course. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and one of the reasons I'm going to keep teaching your work is my issue I've always had when people critique you is that none of them have bothered to actually read your main works. They always base their opinions on you and your philosophy on interviews or on your short articles or on,
or even, sorry to interrupt, or even worse, on my confused, totally improvised podcast statements. Not you here, but usually, for example, that unfortunate event with Piers Morgan and so on, where I, of course, improvised it totally. But it's easy to find where I plagiarize myself. That is to say, where in my written word I give a much more precise formulation. So I agree with you, yes.
Quick question. Do you have any particular regret about the Piers Morgan interview? I thought it was a great conversation.
No, because it got, I don't know, 500,000 views. It's good for propaganda. Okay. It's as simple as that. I didn't do it out of any deep spiritual need. It's propaganda. Okay. To reach. Because today, I think, precisely in all these so-called new media, blah, blah, podcasts, and so on, there is gradually a new so-called public space emerging. And you have many voices, which you don't find them in the official public space, big journals and so on, but they can be very influential at this level of digital public space. For example, to give you an example, but I don't bother even answering him, did you encounter a name, Gabriel Rockhill?
Yeah.
He's a guy who...
He wants to come on the channel. Yeah, he might come on the channel to defend himself, because I had Chris Catrone on recently saying why he's full of shit. And we actually defended you against his article when he wrote that takedown last year.
But it's not just this. Just that guy, that podcast that he did on me as the clown of contemporary global capitalism, whatever.
Right.
He then goes on, he tries to critically reject most of so-called Western Marxism. For me, his key podcast is where he tries to prove the links between Frankfurt School, especially Adorno and Horkheimer, and CIA. But what is really behind all this is a line of thought at the origin of which, from what I know, is that Italian Marxist guy, Domenico Lasurdo, and his point is a very simple one. They try to put it in more subtle way, but the basic point is rehabilitation of real socialism, of Stalin, of Maoism, that nonetheless, that was the true revolutionary event, and we in the West, we are traitors. And 100%. I simply, for theoretical reasons, for political reasons, maybe I'm in my old age becoming a naive humanist, but I cannot accept that. So this is one tendency. No, then there are, of course, other tendencies and so on. I'm just saying that that's why I think what you are doing, not just this course on my work, but also generally what you are doing as podcasts and so on is so important, because again, don't underestimate this new, whatever we call it, digital public space. I think that this is even the lesson that we can get from the new populist right, Trump and so on. Mm-hmm. They're very strong in this space. They're followed by hundreds of thousands. Or look, a guy who now had a kind of a second birth, Jordan Peterson, much worse than his first life. There I had, as you know, a certain, not sympathy for him, but with his opposition to this cancel culture, pseudo-radicalism, he made a point. But now he plays a big wise man. He talks about things he probably has no idea about, from quantum physics to theology to what is happening in Russia, in Europe, and so on. But he gets viewers, incredible numbers. So again, I think you are doing what has to be done precisely in the medium where this has to be done.
Yeah, yeah, and part of it, Slavoj, is look. Whenever I get it, because I'm a card carrying Žižekian, right? Like I make no bones about that. And what I
Yeah,
mean,
but you should here. I will criticize you in a very friendly way, but from time to time you should add. This is what I'm saying to all my friends. You should add a gentle critical stab at me, like maybe Žižek wasn't clear here, maybe he didn't develop this point clearly. Oh, the way he puts it here can open up a way into a direction that we don't want to take and so on. Please, I need this,
Okay, fair enough. But at the same time, there's that great clip of you when the Derridian was saying, "Oh, there it seems to be like some sort of dogmatic Lacanianism operate," and you're like, "I am a Lacanian. I make no bones about And my point is, the reason I will say I'm a Žižekian is precisely because at this point, everybody thinks they're talking about you. They think they're talking about your philosophy, and your enemies are dismissive of you, and yet none of them have read one of your major works. And that's what pisses me the fuck off. Is they don't know Sublime Object.
Yeah.
They don't know Sublime. They don't know Tearing with the Negative. They don't know Parallax View. They don't know
Sex in the Field Absolute. They don't. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know your work.
No, I deeply agree with you, because then people, because of, I admit it, sometimes bad taste jokes and so on, may appear as just, producing free associations, confused thoughts. But I am deeply convinced, that's why I'm going on with my work, that beneath all this, there is, in a very traditional way even, a basic philosophical approach to reality, which now I'm finishing a new book. I try to develop it with reference to quantum physics, Hegel, critique of Heidegger, and so on. And I'm even tempted to write, this is meant in a deeply ironic way, my version of that Stalin's classical text, which is total bullshit philosophically, on dialectical and historical materialism. But something like that, like a big, clear presentation, of course. To understand it really, people will have to read some other stuff from me. But again, I do have a basic philosophical view of reality. I do have specific theory on history, where precisely now I try to, based on some notions from quantum physics, superpositions, collapse, I try to reformulate Marxism to get rid of the remainders of naive progressive evolutionism that you find there, and plus how is politics, in what form possible today. I think that before I drop that and so on, it is my duty to make it clear. So, okay, this, you can use it in this public, but I would like to have you, just on condition that it's only for the two of you, the very rough version. I will work on it for over a year of my latest manuscript, where I precisely deal with all that stuff, kind of a return to philosophical basics.
That's amazing. Yeah, I would love to see.
You're going to send us your version, the rough draft of your version of Stalin's dialectical and historical materialism?
No, not yet. That I will do it as a conclusion. I'm not yet there.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's 3 parts, book in 3 parts. It's still short. First is quantum materialism.
Okay.
How can quantum physics be applied to renovate materialism? Second part is a reply, basically a dialogue with Robert Pippin, his latest book, Culmination, where surprisingly he, the great Hegelian, now made a fatal move from Hegel to Heidegger. He accepts Heidegger's criticism of Hegel. I try to defend Hegel. And the third part is more narrowly on politics, actual questions, ecology, artificial intelligence, and all that. So again, I want to return to, but please, questions.
Okay. So,
Okay.
all right.
We've got 10 minutes. Let's go.
Okay, 15, quarter of an hour, but that's
All right.
really...
Okay.
15.
So, right. So this course I'm teaching, it's an introduction to your theory of ideology. So I'm going to take 4 key chapters of some of your books that I think are the most important there. Next year, towards the beginning of next year, I'm going to teach sublime objective ideology. So this is kind of going to be a companion course to that one. My question for you
Sorry to interrupt you, not lose time, sorry. We can have a short Zoom interview next year before you begin.
Oh, okay.
Where, in a good Stalinist spirit of self-criticism, I will tell you what I think are, from today's perspective, the weaknesses of sublime objects.
That's what my question was going to be.
Are they the critiques? Are they the critiques in the preface here for they don't know what they do?
Not quite. I'm moving further.
Okay. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, I would look, because one of my questions was gonna, but we'll save it till the next talk. But I wanted to ask you, like, if you were to actually say, okay, I'm gonna rewrite Sublime Object all these years later, what would the differences be, right? So if we want to tackle that one whenever we have the next Zoom, then we can do that.
Next time.
No. But I can give you a very brief answer.
Great. Okay. I was hoping so.
Sublime Object maybe focuses too much on ideology and doesn't make, I'm sorry for using this old-fashioned philosophical language, doesn't go deep enough into what I cannot but call ontological presuppositions of ideology. It's not enough to criticize ideology. One should also explain how reality itself is structured so that it needs ideology. Because ideology, as Marx knew very well, is not just ideology in the sense of you criticize it, then you see reality itself. Ideology is a constitutive moment of social reproduction. You lose ideology, social reality as we know it itself disintegrates. So that's the first thing I would have done. Focus more on basic ontological questions. The second thing, towards the end, I am a little bit too benevolent towards democracy.
Yeah.
It may appear as if, all that old poetry of democracy where the place of power is empty and so on. I no longer would have put it in those terms. It's not that I'm becoming some kind of a closet totalitarian or whatever. I'm just saying that we should be very precise with the 2 key notions of today, democracy and ideology. We are all for democracy, more or less, okay, for democracy, for freedom. But as Alain Badiou said, and here I still agree with him, proper concepts are concepts which allow you to draw a line of division, to put it in very naive terms, to distinguish clearly the truth from falsity. I don't think notions of freedom and democracy can play this role. Democracy is now a totally watered down notion. On the one hand, this is the extreme case, but you notice how North Korea, South Korea is Republic of Korea, North Korea is Democratic Republic of Korea. So they refer to democracy. On the other hand, Western imperialism, blah, blah, refers to democracy, not even to mention freedom. Because as even now in the United States, what we, even if you are a moderate leftist, consider important condition of freedom. For example, to be really free, you need to have basic education, you need to have health care, but no, neoliberal populists, they are together here, claim that, you want that the state prescribes you a doctor or to which university you go. So for me, not that state should prescribe you which university to go, but my God, for me, isn't it part of actual freedom? And by actual freedom, I don't mean some Stalinist bullshit where the party knows better than you what you want. I simply mean to be really free means in a very naive way, to realize your potential, to find the vocation, what you want, without appropriate education accessible to you. You are not really free. So in this sense, you can see how the notion of freedom today is too confused. You must spend a lot of time to specify it. So that would be the second point. My sublime object, especially the last part, is too confused at this level.
Would you say part of it is because you like the way I've always read it is the Soviet Union was in the process of breaking down. There's all these, new political dynamics going on in Slovenia, and you were really influenced by Laclau, and you seem to have an optimism towards democracy there that soon faded.
Exactly. Now you put it. I'm sorry. Now I no longer have that optimism, although my friend, I have differences with him. Varoufakis goes too far now in the opposite direction. Like Europe is dead, social democracy is dead, and so on. I wouldn't put it like this. I just think, you know what we need? Now I will give you the formula, because I forgot where I've written something about it. We need a new Socrates. By Socrates, I mean, what did he do? He intervened in a period of deep social crisis. Athenian state was in deep crisis, falling apart. And what he did is that he didn't do what so-called pre-Socratic philosophers were doing. In a way, they were too much in continuity with pre-philosophical thought. You directly ask these big questions. What is reality? Is it water, basically? Is it fire? No, Socrates is simply asking this much more elementary, modest question. I know nothing, so tell me, when you speak about courage, when you speak about goodness, what do you mean? And he's trying to define precisely these terms to make them truly universal. So I think we need a Socrates to terrorize us a little bit. Like, what do we mean by democracy? What do we mean by freedom? What do we mean by solidarity? What do we mean by justice? For a conservative, justice means every one of us should be at his, her, their proper place in social hierarchy. For us, of course, this is not justice.
And part of what we're doing is, Dave's first book was called Time Energy. My book that's coming out soon is called Capital versus Time Energy. And us being, working class guys, we see how the fundamental issue for us is time energy. We don't have enough time energy to explore our potentials, engage, find our passions in life, to lead meaningful
or to
lives.
even have functional families, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, you can't even have a family at this point.
Right.
You know, and
but
so
this is sorry to interrupt you, but maybe this will be of some interest to our viewers. This is a very important point. People say we are a very developed society, blah, blah, progress. But no, it's the trend in all developed countries of, and I don't advocate traditional family, but people simply don't want to have children, families, and it's not because they are some crazy individualist hedonist. It's precisely they're under such a pressure to perform at their job and so on that you simply cannot afford to have a proper family. And now, my point would have been here, we should not abandon this domain to the new right. We should propose our own theory of how should a progressive family, whatever you call it, look today. Can I draw, maybe this will interest your readers, an extremely interesting small note. I found it in CNN, big media, but it's very interesting, on a weird trend now in China. Thousands of successful business women, managers, and so on, said, I don't have time for family life. I cannot relax. I cannot enjoy art. So thousands of them, it's a trend. They abandoned their highly paid executive blah, blah jobs and adopt a much more modest job. Like one of them, it was a shock reported all around China, was a top manager of a mega company. You know what she is now doing? She moved to a small town where she is cleaning apartments. It's crazy, but she said it's well paid because they are difficult to find now in China. And it's very relaxing for me. I do it easily. I do it a couple of hours a day. I live a little bit more modestly, but then I enjoy art and so on. You see, we shouldn't say now some fake progressives would say horrible, women are pushed out of top jobs. No, they are doing something, the message of which is very important, I think.
I love that. I mean, look, and part of what I'm doing with the first book, Capital versus Time Energy, you know, Dave's the one who created the concept, but I'm also taking your theory of ideology and combining it. And so what I'm working out is, you talk about the importance of a quilting point or a master signifier, and it's like if we take time energy or time energism, right, and we quilt all of our current problems, a whole new meaning emerges through thinking through ecology, thinking through LGBTQ issues, thinking about the economic issues. If we use that signifier, it gives us a whole new way of approaching all of these.
I agree, but I would, speaking, now we will have to conclude, I want to propose another concept. Did you get, it's a very short book, easily written, the last book by Alenka Zupancic, Disavowal.
I haven't read it yet.
Not yet, no.
You should, it's very, it's published by Fordham University Press. It's like 70, 80 pages. You know what? I think I still have it. I can do something very dirty. If I have a manuscript, I can send it to you. Just, this is all confidential. That's send it around. Because she detects the big shift in ideology today, how knowledge is becoming inoperative. Like, you know how things are, but not only this doesn't move you to do something, this knowledge even serves as an excuse not to really do something. Her idea is that the standard disavowal is, I know very well, but I know global warming, blah, blah, but look out, there is sun, we can survive, don't worry. Her point is that you can also use this knowledge in this fake way to say, yeah, we are in a terrible situation, so I know it, and precisely because I know it, you shouldn't reproach me for not doing it. It's a paradox where the fetish is knowledge itself, and this knowledge can be truthful. You know who provided a formula to me? You will find it in the manuscript that I will send you. Of all guys, I didn't expect this. Jean-Paul Sartre, in his reaction to 56 Khrushchev Congress, he said something like, when those in power run out of lies but want to defend their position, their ultimate strategy is to use truth itself as a lie. You know, in what sense? For Sartre, this is what Khrushchev did. He told at least partially the truth. Stalin's terror, Gulag, millions of dead, but he used telling the truth as an instrument to redeem the system, you know. So basically it was truth whose the function of which was to be able to continue a lie. So it's very important when I said not just ideology in the sense of sublime object, at the same level, something is so fundamentally changing with the functioning of ideology today that this remains the ultra important task, crucial.
Thank you
Sorry, I
so
have now
much.
to.
Thank you so much.
But in a month too, if there are problems, I will just conclude with saying, people, you know, in this way, you know, it's a little bit of irony, but I mean it seriously. You, not you, potential public, you guys, if you don't take the course organized by Mikey, Dave, and so on, you are objectively siding with the enemy. So, if when we, the people, take power, if you don't want to finish in Gulag or at least in a re-education camp, please take this course. I appreciate it. Thanks very much. And in a month or two, contact me again when we see what problems you are encountering.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Slavoj.
Bye.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
And we're live. All right, everybody. There's a handful of you probably watching this who thought that that was live. It is live streaming. This is a live stream. Absolutely correct. And that is brand new Slavoj Žižek content on the internet brought to you by Theory Underground, Dave and Mikey today. That's right. That was just earlier this afternoon. Mikey, you were at work, right?
I was on my lunch break. It doesn't look like I'm in a warehouse, but my best friend set it up where I could take my lunch break in a little office and use the Wi-Fi. I love the idea of actually doing the interview with him, and I'm sitting one of the aisles with all the, you know, the product around me, but the Wi-Fi wouldn't have been so good out there.
Your cover's blown. Everybody knows you're actually a white collar worker. You live in an office. You're not really a warehouse worker. We know now.
I wonder if Mark. Okay, so this is an inside joke, but one of my coworkers, I was out doing. We call it a buddy route. And last week he hurt his foot, so I had to help him deliver the product. He drove. I did the heavy lifting, and so he's watched a couple clips of us doing our thing here, and he makes fun of my background. He says that he thinks it looks like a dungeon, and this is a thing.
Yeah, you sent me video of him being like, "You need to take those Christmas lights down. That's just so dumb." Yeah.
You need to let me design your background. I'm like, all right, Mark, thanks a lot. Okay, appreciate the input. But Yeah, I'm like, I wonder if he prefers this or the gray wall that was behind me today. I'll have to ask him what he thinks.
I mean, that lighting was really good. All right, so what do you want to say about that interview, really quick? I mean, we'll address some stuff going on in the chat. We'll engage with you all there, everybody in the chat. We see you all. But no, what do we want to touch on from that conversation with Slavoj?
Well, we covered a lot of ground in.
You were just asking me. You were just asking me before we switched over to live.
Let's start with the land thing. So, I mean, that's where we started anyway. So, look, at first, after we got off the Zoom chat with Slavoj, I told Dave, I'm like, I think he just completely ignored what Land said, and we kind of agreed. And then I think you went and thought about it or rewatched it, and then I rewatched it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he did respond. The issue is this: Slavoj didn't understand exactly what I said, and I don't blame him. Because when I said that Land says he doesn't know the point of having a discussion with any of us since we don't know the Elvish origin of the word God, I don't think Slavoj connected the Elvish, Lord of the Rings, fucking Legolas and shit, right? I mean, that's how we're taking it. So I think Slavoj thought, like, oh, it's the criticism that I'm too Eurocentric, right? That's Dave, you take it.
That's that's what I took from it. But the thing is like, it's his response seemed very off, but actually, no, when people say, oh, you don't really understand, Hinduism or Buddhism or some Oriental culture, you're too Eurocentric. It is actually kind of what Land is doing. Land's just saying you don't really understand this Anglo-Elvish shit. Now, we think Land's fucking with us. We think he's
memeing, right?
We think he's I mean, we hope he's memeing. Like he just sent us a reply to the attempt at an interview. This has been going on for 8 months or whatever, and like he was like,
I deferred them again.
Yeah, he was like, okay, I just need 2 more weeks for dithering. I was like, dithering? I had to go look it up on a dictionary, and I was like, dithering. It doesn't make any sense.
The funny thing is, he hates Derrida because his whole thing is like, and this is a cool connection he made where he goes, like, Keynesianism is economically applied Derridian deconstruction because it's just about deferring, right? You just keep deferring in the case of the economy, you defer the financial crisis by, bailouts or whatever. And so I don't know, maybe this is his repressed Derrida coming out by just constantly deferring us.
Yeah, maybe.
But,
well, look, I really liked the part where he went into time, energy, and families and talking about like people don't want to be careerists. He's speaking of women, of course. That obviously just blows progressivism to pieces. If thousands of careerist women who are super successful are just like, you know what, this is not a good life. Well, yeah, it's about time. It's about time that women realized it too, because like we fucking realized it, right? And we're just like, this ain't it, guys. We would rather do anything than that. You got to sell your soul to do it. And so, I really like that whole approach that he was taking with time, energy, and it was interesting that he kind of threw something out there about Gabriel Rockhill, made in that tied to Lizardo. There's like a whole interesting thing there for us to eventually get into, but also pointing out how much of a guru Peterson has become.
Mm-hmm. And Slavoj, he hates the wise man, the figure of the wise man, or the figure of wisdom. So the more Peterson goes down that road, the more he's going to annoy Slavoj.
Peterson loves that shit apparently, because he's doing it all the time. But all right. Well, that's, the interview is what the interview is. You all saw it for yourselves. We're not going to do a complete breakdown of everything. We need some time to digest it, to think about it. But as far as criticism. I said in the chat a little bit earlier, I said in 30 minutes, I'm going to have Mikey say his biggest criticism of Žižek. Now, this is not actually Mikey's biggest criticism of Žižek. Like in terms of a real intervention, you all can wait for Mikey's main work. But at the level of trying to actually read this stuff, there is a criticism that I want to set Mikey up to talk about, which will segue us perfectly into talking about what Mikey's doing with his ongoing research seminar here at Theory Underground, as well as really what we hope to do in this course, right, with the intro to Žižek. Yeah. And so this title of the stream is Nobody Has a Clue What They're Talking About Concerning Žižek. Obviously, that's just meant to be provocative, and it worked because it brought a lot of weirdos into the chat who are just talking shit. So, you know, it worked. It stirred the pot. We have a ton of viewers watching right now. That's fantastic. So, you know, hats off to you all for making this successful. We really appreciate it to the weirdos in the chat who are talking shit. It's great to have you guys here. But we hope you'll stick around and learn something. But the point is simply that, yeah, no, people talk shit about Žižek without having really read his main works. Yet, if you try to read his main works, it's not going to be very easy, right? So, Mikey, you want to talk a little bit about this journey into trying to understand Žižek and why he's so important to you?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, look, the issue is with reading him, especially when I was first starting to read him, the hardest thing that a reader is going to deal with isn't so much the jargon, because Slavoj actually does a great job of explaining Death Drive, explaining fantasy, explaining OJA, right? The hardest the biggest difficulty or biggest obstacle in reading Slavoj is trying to connect the dots, trying to connect how one section connects to another section, right? And this is early on. I mean, he got this critique, and I mean, people still say it, where he's doing like vignettes, or it's fragments, or, you know, and I understand, like, there is a criticism in a sense, but it's a,
well, it's like it's hard to see how the sections connect. It's hard to see how the sections connect to the chapter header. It's hard to see how the chapter headers all connect to one another, and it's hard to see how they all relate to the title. This is a very common problem. But then again, there's also the problem of the fact that he is writing in different genres, and that he is writing decidedly different books across different genres, and that you can just get his book on refugees and it is nothing at all like Sublime Object of Ideology, right? So you might pick up one book and you go, oh, that was great. And then you go and you get Sublime Object, you start reading it and you're like, what the hell is this? Because you know nothing of academic theory. Well, this was a historical intervention into academic theory, as was For They Know Not What They Do, right? Which was the course that you taught at Theory Underground last year. I'm holding the book right here in my hand. And that last year you were all about, in teaching For They Know Not What They Do, you know, hey, everyone starts with Sublime Object, you know, and it's a lot more Lacan heavy, but we're going to focus on his big Hegelian intervention here. In terms of his early work, it's For They Know Not What They Do. This is the book where Žižek basically said, like, if you haven't read this one, then just shut the fuck up about my work, right? I'm paraphrasing. He's not so rude, of course. But in that course, you were pretty deliberate about trying to draw these connections, tease them out, show what's going on there. And I think you did a really great job. All right. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about that.
Thanks. But I mean, look, but that is you want the critique or the, you know, you could say the criticism of, could he write in a way that is more explicitly systematic? Yes, he could. Right. And I think it would have helped his philosophical legacy if he could have written in a way more akin to, say, Kant in Critique of Pure Reason, or Heidegger in Being in Time, because yes, there's jargon with when you're dealing with them, but if you understand their jargon, you start to understand there's a real immediate connection to how Heidegger is moving along in Being in Time. You understand how Kant is moving along in Critique of Pure Reason, right? Same with Hegel in Phenomenology of Spirit, if you can get past the problem of the language. With Slavoj, even once you learn the terms, that's the thing that's what muddies the waters is, okay, I understand the terms. I think I understand what he's doing with this example. How does it connect, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do as a teacher of Zizek's theory, right? Is I'm trying to come in and go, I'm trying to connect the dots that are there implicitly, but it's really difficult to make them come out and be explicit. And yeah, like I do, like there's lots of times where I'm like, damn, I wish, like, imagine if Slavoj could write this Lacanian Hegelian stuff, but in a style more like Critique of Pure, or even like Thomas Aquinas, some theological, right, where it's this real systematic exposition, and it's very easy to follow the inferences and the rational connections and links in the argument, right? But look, the reason I'm yes, that's a criticism, but I don't know. There's also the part of me that's like, let a thinker do what they do. Like, you could say that about Nietzsche in a certain way, or you could say that about Kierkegaard. Like, why is Kierkegaard using these synonyms, and why is he put this, this kind of quasi narrative thing in? Why didn't he just get to the point? Thinkers use different styles and different ways of writing to convey what they're thinking. And Slavoj has had a very consistent writing style since day one.
And it's a
and
lot.
So my thing is,
it's a lot like his
go ahead.
It's a lot like his actual personality, we might add.
It's kind of it. And here's the thing: you see him if friendly critique is what he said. Another one is, look, Slavoj is difficult to interview or have because Slavoj doesn't follow the typical rhythm and flow of conversations. If you say something that sparks him, he just goes, right? And the thing is, his chapters are like that. Like, he'll sit down. I mean, I'm not there when he's writing the shit, but I think if he's sitting there like, oh, I want to write about fantasy, and something sparks him, then he writes like the first chapter of Plague of Fantasies in one go, or in a couple days, and it just pours out. And that's what he was thinking about. And so my thing is, here's why I kind of take the criticism back. Yes, it's a valid criticism, but if that's the only way, if that's how he writes and that's how he thinks, then let him, as the Zoomers say nowadays, let him cook, right? So the same with Nietzsche, same with Kierkegaard. Is if the only way we got what we got from them is how they wrote, then thanks. Like, I keep writing that way. But the point is, there are difficulties that come with Slavoj's kind of, it's just a cascading of Lacanian Hegelian theory, right? Somebody in the chat said, oh, he's just written the same book over and over and over again. Look, like, that's not even really a criticism, because Slavoj himself has said that. Now, of course, he hasn't written the same book over and over again. It depends on what we mean. Has he written the same book over and over again in the sense of trying to constantly work out and refine his Lacanian Hegelian theory? Yes, he's constantly doing that over and over again. But the contents of the books are not the same. I'm sorry. His analysis of the Graph of Desire, chapter 3 of Sublime Object, that happens once. It's in chapter 3 of Sublime Object. His great engagement and criticism of Levinas, that's only in, did somebody say, totalitarianism? His great chapter on the 7 veils of fantasy, that's only in chapter 1 of Plague of Fantasies. His great chapter on scapegoating and enjoying your nation as yourself, chapter 6 of Tearing with It. These are not, you don't get these in every, his great criticism of Meillassoux and correlationism, that's only in Less Than Nothing. So as far as content goes, no, they're not the same book over and over again. But yeah, I mean, as far as trying to refine his Lacanian Hegelian theory, sure, that's the same book. But is Heidegger, I mean, in all those volumes, isn't he thinking being? I mean,
no, that's where we could just say every great thinker is, in a sort of sense, trying to figure something out throughout their life. They're trying to articulate it. They're trying to take it up in a variety of ways. I mean, right, Derrida said of Levinas that his thinking is like a wave on the sand of a beach, just crashing over and over again, just whoop, because he's running up against the limits of language, blah, blah, blah. So I think part of the issue is just we live in the most anti-intellectual country in the world, in all human history, in terms of developed civilizations. It's and not just the most anti-intellectual, but also it used to be the actual leader in terms of literacy, and now people are more functionally illiterate than ever. So people can read a live chat and they can respond in a live chat, but they don't know how to read and they don't know how to interpret, and they can say that they read something, but they didn't really read the thing because they don't really know how to interpret. They don't know how to take up certain standpoints to the text. They don't know how to step back from their own presuppositions. They don't know how to get into the shoes of another author and go with them for a couple miles or years even. They don't get what it is to think. And so people want to sit there and pick apart a book at the level of its form when they don't even understand what that form is a response to, how that form might be the condition of possibility for being able to even say anything new in terms of content. And I wanted to bring it all back to this term that you set us up with last year in the For They Know Not What They Do course, the Fichtean anstos, right? It's his Fichtean anstos. You want to explain what that is?
Sure. Like Fichte in the translation of Fichte's main work, right? This word anstos gets translated as check, and that really doesn't help a lot, right? It tends to confuse more than it illuminates. But what anstos is really getting at is the thing that is the impetus, but also the impediment. It's the thing that makes the thing go forward, progress, but it's the thing that's constantly hindering it as well. So Todd McGowan has emphasized this, where anstos is kind of a precursor to Lacan's concept of objet petit a, right? Because on the one hand, objet a is what causes desire to desire, but in the same moment, it's also what prevents desire from ever being able to fulfill desire, right? So it's the obstacle of desire, but also the thing that drives desire on. So yeah, I mean it's helpful to think that, but Slavoj's writing style, I think, is similar in that regard, where his style itself is his anstos, where it's his style, his writing, it's because it's these kind of frantic connections, like, oh, pop culture into science, into literature, right? Back into the history of metaphysics. But so that style, those kind of quick connections he's making, that's what drives his thinking on. But it's also what prevents it from taking on a kind of explicitly systematic cohesion. So, yeah.
Yeah, well said. So the thing that helps, so basically bring that back to his style. If he wasn't writing the way he's writing, then he wouldn't have been able to do the things that he's been able to do. And so, yeah, it's he's been able to do some amazing things.
But it's also why he has to keep trying to say the thing that he can't say doing it.
Right. And I don't know, I saw one of the I guess I don't need to use mean names. Well, one of those really great commenters was talking about how Žižek lives in fear. The dude is the most fearless man in terms of like theory academics I could ever think of. Like, he is willing to come out and say what he thinks about things that most academics would never, ever consider saying. Like, we could think of like someone like Jordan Peterson being like, I'm going to take a principled stand on Bill C-16 and oh, now I'm being canceled. It's like, yeah, he's being very brave. In reality, yeah, I'm sure it was a courageous move on his part when he did it. Okay, I'm sure. And if you watch the images or the footage of him in those early days when he's getting screamed at and shut down from speaking at events, sure, absolutely. But like Žižek was speaking his mind for decades before Peterson decided to finally say something controversial, right? Like, that's the thing. Žižek, and I think that there's a benefit to kind of being that person who's like, you know what, I'm just going to say what I got to say, and always being that way, versus being someone who spends 30 years shadow boxing opponents in his own head, creating some magical big other that he's, resisting, and then coming out and speaking his truth, right? Žižek was always coming out and saying what he thinks.
He was attacking political correctness in the 90s,
Yeah, which is getting him in trouble with the left today, of course, which is a big part of the reason that he got so much flack last year for his articles in Compact. But, that is a digression. It's kind of besides the point. What I want to turn to now with our remaining half hour here, because we don't have that much more of your time, Mikey, is just to get into why you've selected the chapters that you've selected. But really quick, I want to explain for people who may have noticed that I don't just have the information about your upcoming course on the screen. That's one slide, but that slide has been swapped out for another slide. Like you just saw, if you had eyes on screen, it's the Mikey Downs Research Seminar. Could you just take a quick moment to explain what the seminar is and how it's different from the course? These are not the same thing. They could even fit two different learning styles. They could fit two different work-life balances, but also for the obsessive who really wants to dive in the deep end, potentially a person could do both, but first they'd have to know what they are and how they relate.
Yeah, so the research seminar, I'm going to be teaching one class per month. And this is going to be different than the type of stuff I do in these courses because the very structure of the course, it's kind of an endorses itself, right? But while the structure of the course makes the course possible, it also hinders what can be done within the parameters of the course. And so what the research seminar does is it enables me to give a lecture each month on basically anything that I'm thinking about at the moment, anything that's topical. The thing is, look, I'm constantly doing research. I'm writing 2 books. Right now I'm focused on one, but I'm always doing research for my main book. And so one week I'll just be heavy into Levinas, or one week I'm back into, reading Mark Fisher, right? And this is always the stuff where I'm like, man, like I wish I had time to, talk about some of this stuff. But, before the seminar, I'm off, back studying something else. And so that moment is gone. So what the research seminar enables me to do is give very timely, topical lectures on whatever, and use whatever I'm studying at the moment, right? And so that's kind of the core idea of that. Now, as I get, as the seminar develops, I do plan on teaching certain books there that don't work well as course books, right? There's certain texts that lend themselves to a seminar structure far better than to a course structure. So, for example, I plan on teaching Žižek's Less Than Nothing in the seminar, but it's not going to ever be in one go. That's kind of the overarching project, but that book it's a huge undertaking, right? I don't know, 21, 22 big main, sections throughout it, something like that. And so the seminar enables me to go, okay, this month we're going to come back. We're going to do chapter 3 of Less Than Nothing. And then, I don't know, the next month I might be reading through Badiou's The True Life, right? And so that lecture will be on that. And then 2 months down the road, I come back and do chapter 4 of Less Than Nothing. And so it sounds funny to use this analogy, but it's almost more of like a theory sermon, not in the sense of like I'm trying to spread a doctrine, but
Right.
The pastors I've known throughout my life, you ask them like how they prepare to teach a sermon, they'll say something like whatever God puts on their heart that week. Well, in a philosophically, it's whatever theory puts on my heart that
Yeah.
month to share. So that's the way I'm approaching it.
Right. And I just want to let everybody know, if you want in on the seminar, or if you just want to check it out, go ahead and email hello.theoryunderground@gmail.com if you would like to receive access to the first session that Mikey gave, right? If you just want to hear about his backstory and about kind of how he's thinking about it. The next session is going to be next month, and it's the one where he's going to be getting into sort of the trajectory, the main questions, the main texts, the main thinkers, kind of laying it all out for everybody. But the seminar also brings with it a discount, so you would get 90% off as one of Mike as at tier 2 or higher to Mikey's seminar. You would get 90% off of any course that Mikey's teaching. And so Intro to Žižek, you get 90% off. That's insane, right? That's a really great deal. So we developed this model because of the stuff that I've been doing with Anne, my wife. We teach the Snellgrove-McCarricker synthesis, seminars, critical media theory and critical doxology and timenergy. We've been doing that for the last year and a half. It's been fantastic. It meets twice per month. And what I learned over time was, this is a completely different medium. It actually changes the message. It changes the messenger experience. It changes how I approach the life of the mind. And so if I'm teaching courses and juggling that with an ongoing seminar, the courses feed the seminar feeds the courses, but also there's all kinds of stuff that can't fit inside of a course, like Mikey was saying. It overflows, or like you decide, I'm going to go deep into this trending topic this week, and then now that connects to this other thing that I'm interested in. Now I'm reading Leotard for some reason, or Wittgenstein's back on my table, and then you go, okay, well, I can't fit that into the course I'm teaching. There's not time to cover the content in the course that I'm teaching already. What am I going to do? This is like the pressure release valve for the intellectual, and it offers, in Marxian terms, spiritual nourishment, right? Which is also like intellectual edification, or helps you kind of digest the world, kind of find a little bit more meaning in it, right? And artists get a lot from it. I just put up something pretty recently on the channel of a lot of the Theory Underground seminar members talking about, the kinds of creative projects that they're working on: writing projects, film projects, theater projects, art projects. We've got a bunch of musicians. And so it's like, people they get some kind of stimulation, some kind of inspiration just from hearing us, who are, obsessively diving into these various texts and thinking about certain kinds of questions, concepts, thinkers, and us just processing that with them. It's something valuable. And so if that sounds like something like you get a lot from, consider looking into Mikey Downs' research seminar. The link is in the description of this video. And like I said, there is a discount for the course. But also, if you're like, man, I don't want to think about some long, indefinite thing. I don't want to think about being a member or anything like that. I just want to keep it simple. A 1 month course, 4 weeks long. That I can do. Well, then let's talk about Introduction to Žižek. That's what we're here to get into. And so what are the 4 readings that we will be going through in this course?
The last couple of weeks, I've had a bunch of people email me this question, and it's any of them who are watching right now. Look, sorry, I was being a little indecisive, right? Because there's a lot of great chapters we could read in this 4-week course, and so I was being picky with my selections here. But I narrowed it down. So the very first week, and I recently just discovered that this text exists, and I'm super glad that I did. So the very first week, we're going to read a short text Slavoj wrote called Beyond Discourse Analysis. And the funny thing about it, it's not even in any of Žižek's own books. It's tucked away in an old Laclau book. And look, Laclau and Moss, what is it? Hegemony and Socialist Strategy, right? That book had this profound influence on Žižek early on, and its fundamental influence and importance when it comes to sublime objective ideology. Well, Slavoj wrote this short summarization of basically where he was taking Laclau's theory. And so Laclau had it included as the appendix of a book called New Reflections on the Revolution of Our Time. This text is only about 10 pages long, very short, but it's easily Žižek's best summarization and condensed presentation of some of the core aspects of what he does in sublime objective ideology. So that's why we're going to start off with that one. Gives me lots to talk about and lots to clarify, right? So that's week 1. Week 2 is going to be chapter 6 of Tearing with the Negative. I mentioned it earlier in passing. This chapter is called Enjoy Your Nation as Yourself. This is just one of the great moments where Žižek basically connects jouissance to nationalism, to politics, to scapegoating. And this is one of his most famous and enduring contributions to psychoanalytic political theory. So absolutely essential. Week 4, this is maybe my favorite of the 4 readings. It's called Superego by Default, and it's chapter 3 of his book, The Metastases of Enjoyment. I've said it many times, but I'll say it again. To me, superego is actually Žižek's concept, not Freud's, not Lacan's. And yeah, I know that Freud invented that,
but he's using it in such a different way. Yeah.
Yes, and the thing is, the way, yes, and Lacan's the first one that says the only thing that commands enjoyment is the superego. So, but he says it in Seminar 20, and then he makes one little passing statement about superego somewhere else in Seminar 20, and that's it. That's all he says, right? So, Slavoj early on, he read that, and I mean, a light went off for him, and he developed this idea of how the superego is functioning in ideology and on the basis of commanding enjoyment. This is Slavoj's theory, right? Yes, Lacan planted the seed, but the real development of this goes to Slavoj, and this is just one of the best things he ever wrote. So I'm really looking forward to teaching that one. And then the fourth one, and I had a lot of options. I was like, how do I want to end this? Because there's stuff in Ticklish Subject I love. There's stuff in Plague of Fantasies, right? There's all these great chapters, but I'm like, no, okay, let's actually do it because I've never taught it. Let's do the chapter 6 of the Parallax View, where he does this thing with Bartleby politics. I would prefer not to, right? And that chapter is called The Obscene Knot of Ideology, or How to Untie It. And this is just great. He does the Rumspringa thing, the Bartleby politics, and so there's lots to talk about there. We all know that the I would prefer not to thing is a meme at this point. I mean, the meme that everybody shares of him looking all grumpy and it says I made that years ago, and it's funny to see it circulate. But anyway, it's just a great chapter, and I think the Bartleby politics, it's not really understood. It's referenced a lot. People love the phrase from Melville's short story, right, on Bartleby. But we'll go into it, and we'll actually, really go into why does Žižek, what does he see in this story? Why does it matter to him, and how does it relate to how we should go about fighting or reckoning with ideology? So it's a good way to in the course. But I want to say too, look, we were telling Slavoj in the interview. So I'm teaching Intro to Žižek, which is really Intro to Žižek's Theory of Ideology. That's this course in September. But next year, somewhere, Dave and I are still working out the details of it, but it'll be somewhere end of February, early March is where it's going to start, somewhere in there. I'm going to teach Sublime Object, and it's going to be a 6-week course, maybe 7. We're still working out the details because I really want to do this one right. This one, it means a lot to me. This book changed my life.
I mean, I've never really, I don't really know what I kind of can talk about the first 3 chapters. I can't really talk about the last 3 chapters, and it's been so long since we went over it together with Peter Rollins back in the day. And I know you've been over it before then, after then. I haven't. And so just like revisiting it, I'm really looking forward to that. The graphic desire that he's using in that. I mean, I didn't know what to do with that.
Dave and others around us, they have been bugging me for years to teach the graph of desire. So we're going to finally do the graph of desire. That'll be week 3 of the object course.
Tight, yeah. Amazing.
Great.
And so,
all right.
like I say, right? I look, and I know that like the greatest chapter that Žižek ever wrote on ideology and at its purest functioning is really chapter 3 of Sublime Object. But I had originally like, oh well, I'll just teach it now, but it doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna do an intro to that and then teach it and then teach it again. So that it just worked out this way. We have this intro course, and somebody asked me, "Hey, haven't you already taught Intro to Žižek on Dave's channel years ago?" Yeah, I did. And so why teach it again? Well, though that whole thing we did years ago was really an intro to core Žižekian concept, Lacanian concepts.
It was so concept driven, yeah.
Yes, it was. What is drive? What is fantasy? What is objet petit a? And okay, that was essential, right? I think it's imperative to start with the concepts, but the people who are going to be signing up to take a course, look, I presuppose they have a bit more familiarity with Žižek than somebody who just is starting from absolute scratch, right? Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to go back over the concepts. It's just I can't spend 3 hours just talking about objet petit a, right? Otherwise, we never get to any of the content of the book. So we're doing this course because I want to lay a text foundation for Slavoj. I want to get into some of the core writings of his on this and teach those. And then next year we come back, we'll do Sublime Object.
Yeah. Oh my God. Do we have somebody in the chat who's like, oh, you guys are Marxists and you're charging for something? Oh my God, it's a contradiction. And it's just like, and then he's like, oh, you guys are grifting so hard. Yeah, I remember like when Marx said nobody should ever charge for anything and nobody should ever be compensated for their labor. And in fact, his whole point is that everyone should just do everything for free for always, as long as we're within capitalism. That's exactly the way forward. In fact, if we just taught philosophy for free and lived homeless under a bridge, then communism would just fall down from the sky. It's perfect, guys. So I just want to like say, everyone, thank you for putting up with that guy in the chat. He's really bringing it today. Here, I actually have a sound clip just for him. I think that I heard him, and so I recorded him saying this just so I could play it here on stream.
I'm trying to, as much as possible, not participate in our economy. I don't like money, so I'm trying to live by bartering alone.
Good job there, bud. Yep.
Hey, I just want to say, Žižek would say you're one of the enemies. So when we come to power, you're at bare minimum re-education camp.
That's why I had to gulag him for sure.
It's pure ideology.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah. Anyway, so Beyond Discourse Analysis, Enjoy Your Nation as Yourself, Superego by Default, and The Obscene Knot of Ideology. Is that what you said it is?
Yeah, and then or how to untie it. But
okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, and the Metastases of Enjoyment, Tearing with the Negative, and the Parallax View. Like, these are 3 of those major works, and each chapter is gold, but these ones specifically pertain to his theory of ideology, and overall, they help you weave together this sort of approach to, well, I guess what you're trying to do. Let's be honest, everybody. He wants to make this accessible to anybody who really wants to get into this stuff. But if he can make it click for me, I'm not the brightest crayon, if he can make it click for me, then it's going to reach most people. Okay. This has always been the strategy. Hey, if he can make objet click for Dave, if he can make jouissance click for Dave. Right. And so like, that's why I was like, yeah, come on my channel, teach me this stuff. I have no idea about any of this stuff, right? I'm a complete outsider to all of this. And you've always done a great job. Everyone's a big fan of what you're doing. I'm super stoked about all of this. And the idea that you did For They Know Not What They Do, which was an 18-week course, and it was, I almost say gruesome. I meant brutal. It was brutal. It was hardcore. And it was hard, right? It was like, it took a lot out of you. And you're like, you're like, I'd be surprised if I could do you're like at least maybe one per year right after that. But then I was like, well, what about like a 4-week course? And then you did the intro to land course, and that was a lot of fun. People got so much out of it. It sold bars, man. So in terms of us grifting, yeah, we made some money. I think you went and bought like some groceries or something. Totally exploitative. And then, but it made us realize, yeah, but it made us realize we could do more. Right. Yeah. And so here we are, doing this one, and then in short succession, not too much later, January, February, around then we'll be diving into Sublime Object.
Here's what we're September is Intro to Žižek's Theory of Ideology. March, we'll figure out the dates, but somewhere around March is Sublime Object to Ideology. When we get into summer, I have a couple ideas for different courses. At some point, I'm just going to say, let's do Intro to Baudrillard. There's stuff, Mark Fisher, I'd like to teach him. There's more stuff on land and CCRU. I plan on eventually teaching the majority of Žižek's core works, right? And so all of these are ideas, but for right now, yeah, it's Intro to Žižek and then Sublime Object sometime early next year. And I just want to say, so, okay, one thing that Slavoj, he said, okay, maybe, some friendly criticism, because I told him, like, card carrying Žižekian. And I didn't get really to make the point. Here's the thing. When I say I'm a Žižekian, like, I'll tell Slavoj, I don't care about what his take on Ukraine is, and I don't care about, these topical subjects that everybody gets mad at him over. These are not why I'm a Žižekian. I think that what he's done in his core works gives us the most robust psychoanalytic theory of ideology and society institutions that we have, and that really what he's done with these texts is he's prepared like a kind of theoretical matrix. Like, nobody's tapped into what this Žižekian matrix can do. I mean, there's a few who have started to do it, right? But this matrix of concepts and how he tied them into Hegel and Hegelian ontology, all this, I just feel like, besides, say, Todd McGowan and you have Dwayne Russell and Matthew Flisfader, and there's thinkers who have started to use this and broaden it out and do original things with it. But I think there's just so much untapped potential in being able to study society through this Žižekian lens. And again, so part of when I teach him, like, why did I pick these four readings, right? It's because I know Sublime Object, you go, well, that's his book on ideology. Yeah, but there's all these other core writings on ideology, but they're spread out across different texts. And Slavoj, when we interviewed him the time before, I told him about this and he agreed, which is to really get all his stuff on ideology, you would almost have to do an anthology where you take chapters from different books and put them into one. And so that's what I'm trying to do in bringing these readings together, is actually have, a textual analysis of his core writings of ideology. And like I say, there's other ones, but these are the four I think that are best to start with. And that's what I'm hoping that what I can do as a teacher is provide a kind of more systematic, cohering analysis of how these Žižekian insights and concepts fit together, so we can start using this matrix of concepts that he has developed a la Lacan and Hegel.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would say I'm a Žižekian, is that I think this matrix has given more to me than pretty much any other philosopher, right? But it's because, like I said, Žižek is a stack of books to me. He's not the guy in the interviews. He's not the guy writing doing the hot topics and little articles, right? He's the guy, he's Sublime Object of Ideology, Pairing with the Negative. ticklish subject, parallax view, less than nothing, sex in the failed absolute. Like that's who Žižek is to me. And what I've learned from those books has, like I say, it's given me more than almost any other theorist. And so that's why I want to take up the name Žižekian, is because nobody, when they say Žižekian, that's the last thing they mean.
Right.
And so,
right. Well, with a couple of exceptions who are our friends, you know, but no, back to the Mikey Downs research seminar, I wanted to point out to people some of the big books for you here, right? Oh, wait, how do I bring it back? Let's see. There we go. So if you look at the screen, folks, you'll see Less Than Nothing right on top of Mikey's head there. And the reason for that is because, yeah, that's one of those books that Mikey wouldn't want to teach it all at once, right? And so instead he wants to
our friend Cadell, he plans on teaching it, and I'm like, you're doing the Lord's work, man. I don't know how, but I can't tackle, like, I mean, I don't know how long I'm like, God damn, Cadell, how long is it going to take? But like, absolute immense respect for doing that. I just can't stay focused on a text as long as Cadell can, right? So I'm like, okay, I definitely want to teach that text, right? I want to know it as well as I can. And to do that, I have to teach it, but I got to break it up into increments that, it's like the ongoing project. And, it might take me 4 years, 5 years to get all the way through it, because I know I'm going to drift around. Like one of the books in the seminar I want to teach is Anna Greenspan's book on capitalism's transcendental time machine, right? Now, if I offer this as a course, it could be a 4-week course, but the problem is, and it sucks, but it doesn't have the name value or name recognition that a lot of these other books have. It should, because I think it's as fundamental to CCRU stuff as anything Land ever wrote. But sadly, it doesn't have that. But in the seminar, we can go through it, and we can do a proper study of it. But as far as offering courses, yeah, we know what people want. Capital. They want being in time. They want anti-Oedipus. They want 1,000 plateaus. They want blah 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 blah. Simulacra and simulation. We know the text, right? And so,
and know these texts better than most. And you know these texts better than most. Like I don't want to toot our own horn here too much, but I also really want to just drive home that no, it's not just like, oh yeah, hey, if you're into philosophy, maybe you should start doing what we're doing. No, if you've done it for 20 years, go ahead and start doing what we're doing. Don't you know what I mean? Like this, Mikey's been doing this for 20 years. At this point, let's go. Like it's time to get into it. And so, I mean, the thing is like some people, like they read a book for the first time and then they go start a YouTube channel about it. They start trying to sell courses about it. They talk and all they do is sow confusion, right? And they think it sounds good what they're saying because it's the smartest stuff they've ever said. But, there's usually in every young man's life, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick on men here, but in most young men's life, there's like a time when you kind of bottom out and you realize, oh, I thought I knew what I was talking about. I didn't know what I was talking about. I need to pump the brakes. I need to slow down. And you get a little humble and you kind of have that subjective destitution and you actually have to actually start putting in the work. And Mikey, it's not like he's always been out here just like, oh, I'm going to teach this stuff. No, it was like pulling teeth for me to get him to put his face on the internet. It was like pulling teeth to get him to start doing a blog, to start a Patreon, to just anything that's good for him is like pulling teeth to get him to do it. It's like, I always tell people I'm the Mikey Wrangler, right? Like people are always like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring Mikey on my channel. I'm like, good luck. I had to know him for 10 fucking years. Good luck. It's not easy. And
well, it's because that like I really, in a weird way, like I really would just sit in a coffee shop and work on theory all day and never do anything with it. Like that's almost my ideal situation, is just let me sit here for the rest of my life working on theory. And do I need to publish it now? Well, whatever. So no, like you found like my friend, but also your friend Christian for years tried to figure out how to get me to do stuff. And he's the one who got me to make a couple little YouTube videos, but he figured out quickly, like, okay, this is really like pulling teeth. He doesn't he doesn't just spontaneously want to make content. But somehow you figured out the trick to get me to do it. And so here we are. But no, I did. I studied philosophy every day for hours. Roughly 17 years before I ever started a blog, really, or do anything. And yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Is it kind of a pet peeve when I see somebody who's, oh, I started reading philosophy 3 months ago, and now I'm going to start. It's like, maybe go dwell with the philosophy for a little bit longer before you set yourself up as a teacher. But they can go, fuck you. Who are you to tell? It's like, okay, whatever.
So with all of that said, Less Than Nothing is going to be this sort of bedrock text spread out over time through the seminars, or through the seminar. And then there will be various courses that are doing these deeper dives into Žižek, into Land, into Baudrillard next year, by the way, everybody. Yeah, stay tuned. That is coming. We've not actually said that on stream. I think we've said it around online a couple times, but yeah, it's official. Like Mikey's actually said, yeah, the plan is coming together. The intro to Baudrillard, it will be next year. So later next year.
A lot of people probably don't like Baudrillard is my other big influence, and I have my reasons for why I've never taught any Baudrillard. I'll go into that some other time. I've talked about it before, but suffice it to say that yeah, I am going to teach an intro to Baudrillard either next summer or next fall. I don't know when it'll be, but it's in the works.
Yep. And so Žižek, Land, Baudrillard, and adjacent thinkers is what you want to get over at Mikey Downs' research seminar. Me, I'm not a Žižekian in a strict sense. I'm one of the young Žižekians in a loose sense, but I'm a Žižekian in training, but I'll also always be a heretic because at the end of the day, I believe in wisdom. I believe in the good. I believe in morality. I believe in all kinds of these things that just I don't think Žižek is going to take very seriously. But the reason I like Žižek is because he gets so much so much headway and gains so much traction by bracketing those things out. And that's how I approach thinkers. And I think that is how we're supposed to approach any thinker who's post-Husserl. Any post-Husserlian thinker probably knows that they are making deliberate bracketing choices, and then they are going with their operating assumptions. And they should be thought about on that basis. We all have our sort of seemingly natural inclinations and tendencies with our thought, our own biases and presuppositions, our own operating assumptions that we know about and that we don't know about. And we can counter some of those strategically. We can harness other ones. And the better of a thinker you are, the more you're going to interrogate all of that. And one of the best ways to interrogate all of that is to ride along with other thinkers who do something different than what you do. But what I love about Žižek is his critique of ideology. What I love about Žižek is this third level of ideology critique, right? People focus on the explicit or the implicit level of the message, but what they miss is this obscene underside, the enjoyment, the drive, the unconscious, the superego. I love that shit. I've gotten so much mileage just from that little bit from Mikey, and that was just through his sort of Žižek and Lacan 101 stuff that's on the channel for free. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. That he was teaching me that stuff back in 2020, 2021, 2022, all before Theory Underground was even a thing. And so anyway, I think that it's going to be a really great next year for all of us who've been coming along, like slipstreaming Mikey into this insane corner of the theory world where we are reading the most impenetrable and profound psychoanalysts and philosophers, and I'm just really fucking stoked, man. So thank you for doing this. Anything you want to say in close here before we finish it out?
Žižek warned you, don't go to the Gulag.
Yeah, don't objectively side with the enemy.
Don't objectively side with the enemy.
All right.
And be sure to learn your Anglo-Elvish origins of the word God.
Yeah. Have a good one, everybody.
All right. Later, everybody.
We cannot do direct revolution, but the only way to lay the foundation for it is to do what you are doing to move the underground. It's a theoretically correct title.
Welcome to Theory Underground, a place for workers with earbuds who are tired of letting others read and think on their behalf, slipstreaming our way into an understanding of the situation that short-circuits the deadlocks of our moment.
Research at Theory Underground focuses on what is most important for understanding our current situation: theory of the subject, capital, time-energy theory, critical media theory, CMT, and the most essential critiques necessary for understanding why the theory, ideology, and common sense of influencers left to right misses the mark.
Theory Underground is coming to a city near you. What that has meant in the last year is traveling across the United States, into Canada, and then all over Europe to promote our books, courses, and ideas related to time energy and underground theory. You've been reading Underground Theory.
I'm a publisher and an editor. I run and review books. Literally, it's my living. This is the best edited collection I've ever read.
Okay, picture this scene. America, early 2021. An Amazon warehouse worker arises from the emerging underground theory internet scene to create spaces for untimely topics and concerns that are too often neglected or kept in isolation today. Joined by a revolving cast of underground theorists, academics, and critics, he establishes what will become Theory Underground, a teaching, research, and publishing platform by and for working-class intellectuals, autodidacts, and academics who want to do more than they're able to do within the confines of academia. That warehouse worker's name is David McKerracher, and his book Time Energy is his first major contribution to the world of theory. It was recently reprinted with a foreword by none other than Slavoj Žižek, who also contributed to Theory Underground's latest book.
My Bible, it's an excellent book.
A collection of essays called Underground Theory.
What you just heard is an excerpt from the Strange Exiles podcast, episode 23, where Bram from Strange Exiles interviewed me and Mikey. For those who don't know, Mikey is the author of the Dangerous Maybe blog. We are publishing one of his books here shortly at Theory Underground. He's also a lecturer at Theory Underground, and he's someone I've been friends and a collaborator with for over 10 years. But most importantly for you all, he's a fantastic lecturer, and it's a crime that he has to do wage labor right now. One of the long-term goals of Theory Underground has been now for a couple of years to hashtag free Mikey. That is something that I've been really pushing, but first I had to get freed from wage labor, which was achieved this year. That's right. Thanks to my monthly seminar subscribers, I was able to quit Amazon and do Theory Underground full time. Now I'm announcing the next big phase of the plan, which is the Mikey Down seminar. What monthly subscribers to the Mikey seminar are paying for is a survey of philosophy, including deep dives into Žižek, Land, Lacan, Baudrillard, Bataille, Lyotard, and ultimately the whole history of philosophy.
We're trying to build like this ongoing seminar, right? And that's what I really like about this thing, where, you know, if I'm teaching a main text, that's something I got to focus on. I got to really, but the seminar thing, we can do this stuff all the time, where we dive deeper into concepts, we dive deeper into certain, you know, sections of books or whatever, and we can really do this nuanced stuff.
I think that there's probably no better way for us to accelerate our learning in these areas than by slipstreaming Mikey. And that has been my belief for years and years and years now. It's official. You're able to help out. You're able to get involved. You're able to benefit directly from liberating him from wage labor. Get on it right now. Do it. Just go. Stop what you're doing. Go click the button, subscribe. This is what you do. Subscribe to him. If you're already signed up for the ongoing Theory Underground seminars, then that's the ones that I do with my wife, Anne. Though that's getting an upgrade, which means that I will be doing one session per month that is just me, and then I will also be doing the ones with Anne, which are a crash course in sociology, anthropology, the social sciences, and ultimately Marx, Heidegger, Levinas, Bourdieu, imminently critiquing pop psychology, sociology, self-help, and ultimately the doxa of our time. But if you would like to be a subscriber to both Mikey's seminar and the seminar that the Snellgrove McCarrackers are doing, then the best way is to become a tier 4 subscriber, or you can be a tier 2 subscriber to each of us. The reason this matters is because tier 2 is like pretty much the best bang for your buck. It gives you huge discounts on all of the courses that we do. But if you can't afford it, tier 4 is amazing because it gives you tier 3 access at both Mikey's seminar and ours.
And finally, not everybody has time to be part of these ongoing research seminars, and they just want to fund the paid content for the YouTube and podcast. And so thank you so much to our patrons over at Patreon. They're the ones funding all the free stuff, so big thank you to Bert, Marilyn, Carl, Sahil, Zozandra, Nikolai, Darian, Tyler, and Mandeep, and all the other wonderful patron people. Patreon people. And thank you to all the other wonderful Patreon people. Thank you so much to all of you patrons, and also to the special subscribers and the paying subscribers. Oh my god! It's just so awkward. Thank you, Patreon. Patrons. Thank you, patrons. Oh, okay. And to all the other wonderful patrons. Thank you so much, all you patrons. And also a special thanks to the subscribers on the YouTube side, as well as the paying subscribers over at Substack. Why can't we do this? Fuck. You guys. Please. Just thank you. Thank you, everyone, for making this bullshit possible. Thank you to the subscribers.